Mr. Secretary, I appreciate your comments in regard to sequestration, the Budget Control Act. I didn't vote for the Budget Control Act for a number of reasons. Two primarily of importance today is a belief that across-the-board cuts don't establish priorities. It suggests that every program has equal value and that, therefore, they all should be treated the same. And in my view, we should spend more money on some things, spend less money on some things, perhaps spend no money on others. And to defer to a across-the-board cut, in my view, demonstrates an irresponsibility on our part. Secondly, I think the primary function, responsibility of the Federal Government is to defend our nation. And defense cuts, while it was described as half the cuts coming from defense and half the cuts coming from domestic spending, the outcome is something significantly different than that. And I continue to pledge my efforts to work with my colleagues, many of them in this room today, as we try to find a solution. You indicate that words are no longer sufficient, so I'm sorry that mine are just words at the moment, but I can tell you, Mr. Secretary, that many of us are actively pursuing a legislative fix to the issue of sequestration in the Budget Control Act, and I hope that we are successful for the sake of the defense of our nation. I'm sorry that you have the difficult responsibilities the two of you have, should we fail in that regard, but we want to give you the flexibility to make decisions that are based upon the best interests of defending our country. So thank you in that regard for your service, and we look forward to working with you. Mr. Secretary, I've asked for an appointment to see you. I hope that at some point in time we can accomplish that, and I'm a new member to this subcommittee, and I'd like to utilize your expertise to find out how I can do my job well, and based upon your experiences in the House and now as the Secretary.
Well, I absolutely commit to that meeting. I wasn't aware of that, but I look forward to it at your convenience, and thank you for your vote. Some of that old House of Representative wisdom, no doubt.
You know, when I was in the House, I despised the Senate. When I'm in the Senate, you despise the House. We ought to find the best of both bodies. You wouldn't be surprised for me to highlight a topic of Fort Riley, Kansas, in our conversation this morning. Fort Riley is the home of the Army's 1st Infantry Division, known as the Big Red 1, centered between Junction City and Manhattan, Kansas. I was at Fort Riley on Saturday, saw the new Irwin Army Hospital. One of the things that was said at the listening post was how much infrastructure investment has occurred at Fort Riley, $1.8 billion, including a new hospital to open this year of nearly $350 million.
If I can start off, I would just note, Senator, I can't speak for the Pentagon, but Fort Riley is certainly well known and deeply appreciated in the Army portion of that building. And it is, as it has been, one of our most important facilities. And
although I would follow up on the comments from the Senator from Missouri, the listening tour that involved General Cloutier in Kansas was very well received. The General indicated that the Army knew the square footage of Fort Riley, knew he had all the facts and figures, but came to see whether there was, to learn about the heart of Fort Riley, and 4,300 Kansans showed up at Fort Riley at Junction City, Kansas, to demonstrate their love and care, compassion for the soldiers who serve at Fort Riley, who are deployed at from Fort Riley, and their families. I wanted to compliment the Army. I was, as I said earlier, at Irwin Army Hospital on Saturday last, and a major improvement in the facilities, a great opportunity for us to care for soldiers and their families. We understand that we are one of a few who have that new facility in the works, and we appreciate the Army's decision to proceed with that hospital. I also want to ask a couple of questions, perhaps for the record, but I wanted to ask you, General, the division headquarters from Fort Riley is now in Iraq. General Funk is leading our operations in Iraq. We are expecting his return to Kansas, to Fort Riley, later this year. We would welcome you both to be there to welcome General Funk in his mission, the division headquarters home. What do you see happening next in Iraq and the war on ISIL?
Well, I mean, so this is something we see going on for some time. The 1st Infantry Division will be replaced by another headquarters that will go in and do that. We have not yet announced that, but we will soon. And so I can see this continuing for some time. President has said 3 years. I would say it'll be that minimally, and we'll have to look to see. We'll go back to the president if we need longer than that. But I see this going on for some time. The other comment I would make, by the way, and you mentioned UAVs earlier, you know, we just made the first deployment of our Gray Eagle UAV that came out of the 1st Infantry Division, and they are now in Kuwait, and they will stand up and really conduct the first combat operations of our Gray Eagle capability under division control. That's a very important step for us in our investment, and it goes back to the comments you made of the ability to train with that at home station is very valuable to us. It's going to be an integral part of our ability to conduct future warfare. And so I think this is a very important milestone for us as they are now deployed in Kuwait and to support this operation.
General, thank you for saying that. I wasn't very articulate in my comments, but the point I was attempting to make was that while there's 4,000 acres at Fort Riley, there's another 35,000 acres at Great Plains Training Center, located near Salina, home of Kansas State University, Salina, and Kansas State University has received the certificate of authorization from the FAA this week for the use of unmanned systems statewide. And that we see in Kansas as a significant development, not only militarily but commercially. It's a significant development.